Okay, it's gone 12:30, Jody. So for the purposes of time, we'll get cracking if that's okay. There are still people coming in, but we promise people short, sharp, sweet, and punchy. So we'll stick to that. We'll stick to that promise. Welcome everybody. My name's Mick McKenna. I'm for all intents and purposes the LMCT coordinator at the Victorian Automotive Chamber of Commerce (VACC), and I'd like to welcome you all to the third Lunchbox session. Today featuring the Vic Roads team. Headlining that team today is a friend to many in this room. I would say, even though she's only relatively new in government terms, Jody Lewis, who's a scheme manager for LVTs and VIVs at Department of Transport and Planning. So welcome, Jody, and thanks for all you're doing, and thanks for all you've done for VACC and others over the journey in your short tenure. It's been fantastic. For the record, you're certainly a lot better to deal with than Sash. And I'd also like to welcome, Michael Chan, and a lot of you would recognise Michael from the last two sessions as well. And Michael's the scheme manager of the dealer services at Department of Transport and Planning and troubleshooter extraordinaire. So welcome, guys. I'll throw the meeting over to you, and I'll weave in and out depending on issues that might be getting raised in the question boxes. So I'll throw to you, Jody. It just has note, everyone, you have been muted for a specific reason, and please use the chat box for questions. And yeah, that's it. So I'm going to throw to you. So that's 1 minute earlier than my original anticipated time. So Jody, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mick. Thank you everyone for attending. We really appreciate the VACC setting up these sessions and giving us the opportunity to speak to you all. So as Mick introduced, my name is Jody Lewis Hamilton, and I'm the scheme manager for the LVT and the VIV schemes here at the Department of Transport and Planning. And we also have Mike Chan on the call as well, the scheme manager for the dealer certification scheme and the used car trader scheme. We also do have, as Michael was talking about earlier, we do have some team members who are also present who will be looking at answering some questions in the chat. So just calling out, we've got Joe from our dealer team and David from our LVT team. So if you see them responding to your questions, don't panic. That was all we intended to do. So I'm sure you can all see my screen now. If you can't, please yell out. But I think no one can yell out. They're all muted. Mike, can you see my screen?
Yeah, all good. It's awesome. Working well. Yeah.
Good.
Looking magnificent. Not sure about Michael, though. He's not looking so good.
All right. So we'll kick off. So hopefully it's going to do as I intend it to. There we go. So first of all, I'd like to just do an acknowledgement of country. So I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we're all tuning in from today. For me, I'm dialing in from the lands of the Wurundjeri people, and I pay my respects to all elders past, present, and to all other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who have tuned in with us today. Okay, formalities. So obviously we have a set format here. Mick has covered some of it, but we have actually made the decision to mute people on this one because it's quite a large number of people. So if you have a question, please pop it into the chat and we will get to them when we can. We do welcome feedback, and please, you know, if we do unmute anyone, we do ask that people are respectful of the viewpoint of others. So moving into the licensed vehicle tester scheme. So I'm going to just talk in general about the licensed vehicle tester scheme today. Going to cover a couple of things where we see troubles with where dealers might be having in the LVT space or issues. I'm mindful that Robert has put his hand up and I don't want to keep talking. Can we unmute Robert by any chance, Mick?
No, we won't unmute anyone. Robert, put your question in the chat.
In the
That'd
comment.
Be great. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. So the licensed vehicle tester scheme is a regulatory scheme governed by the Road Safety Vehicles Regulations 2021, and it's managed under a license arrangement with standard conditions that apply to all LVT. So I'm assuming everybody on this call is an LVT. They should be well and truly familiar with the fact that there is a set of license conditions. It is mandatory for all LVTs to comply with those license conditions, and they're readily accessible via the websites and also sent out with the license renewals that go out each year. Digging into a little bit more detail. So in the LVT space, we have over 1,900 LVTs across Victoria, and that comprises over 2,300 sites and 5,000 examining mechanics. And on average, we issue over 800,000 certificates of roadworthiness each year. So LVTs are issuing them in Victoria across the board. The LVT and VIV support team, which is my direct team, there's 10 of us. So myself as the scheme manager, I have 6 senior vehicle safety officers and 3 vehicle safety officers. All of my team are qualified licensed vehicle testers themselves. They're also all qualified mechanics with, I put 20 plus years of experience, but it's probably more like if I accumulated all 120. They've all got amazing amount of experience across all different types of vehicles. So that's the basics of the LVT scheme. What I wanted to do today was really discuss some key discussion points. So questions that VACC have raised with us previously, issues that we see popping up with our LVT partners who are also dealers, and just go through a couple of things that I think would be really good for you guys to hear. And then at the end, we can cover off some questions. So these are the topics that I thought were probably the most prominent ones. So talking about LVT license administration and a few different topics in there. The supervision of staff, which is really important aspect for our dealer partners who are also LVTs. The online e-roadworthy system and password sharing, our sanction and show cause process, mandatory image requirements, and also LVT newsletters. So each one I'm going to delve into a little bit more as we go. And remember, pop your questions in the chat and the team can answer them. So jumping straight in, LVT license administration. So obviously under the regulations, we can issue a license to an individual or into an incorporated body. So that's probably the most important thing to understand. Most of the people here being dealers, I assume the license is issued to the incorporated body or the entity in which governs that one. We do request that if the license is issued to an entity, that we have a nominated representative to be the main day-to-day contact for the license. So this may be the dealer principal, it may be a service manager, but we do ask the person who's ultimately responsible to nominate someone who can be their day-to-day contact. Renewal process. So LVT licenses do expire every year. They only have a 12-month expiry period, and under the regulations, we can actually cancel a license if it's not renewed, and we do follow up that process regularly. So I want to stress the importance about renewals. All LVT renewals are sent out via DocuSign. So we use a DocuSign process and we send them out to the person who we have listed as the representative for the license. They're sent out in the final week of the month before the license expires. Now that's very wordy. So basically, I would send out the August renewals in the last week of July. So it gives you the full period of August to compile all the information you need, take the photos that are required, submit them through and submit the DocuSign. The DocuSign must be completed in order for the LVT license to remain current. And if it does expire, we do send a follow-up. And if that does not get done, we will proceed to cancel the license. So I just want to, like I said, stress the importance of making sure that somebody, you know, within the dealer team is aware that it's coming up. One thing that we do see very regularly, obviously with the dealerships who are LVT partners, is occasionally DocuSign emails do get blocked by firewalls. So you obviously have very strict firewalls to protect your businesses. Sometimes the DocuSign emails do get blocked by those. So I do ask that everybody is very mindful of the expiry. And if you have not received your DocuSign in the, you know, in that first week of the month, to contact us to let us know, and then we can work around getting it sent out. One of the things that we have done in the LVT newsletter for the last few editions is to request that you add the email address. So when the DocuSign comes out, there's a standard email address. Actually add that to your favorites in your Outlook. Usually that will stop the firewall blocking the emails. But if you do not receive them, please contact us. License renewals are sent out for every site under the license. So if you have 10 sites, you should expect to get 10 DocuSigns. Because obviously there's different people representing different sites, they may go to different people. So something for if there's any dealer principals here who are managing LVT licenses with many sites, just be mindful that if you've got those representatives across different sites, they may scatter through different people, and just to keep that overview to make sure they're all completed. Moving down into site management. So this one is a question we always get, and one of the questions that was submitted prior to the session was in relation to examining mechanics moving between sites. So examining mechanics can only be authorised on one LVT licence at any time. That's really important to understand. So they can be on one LVT licence, and the best way to understand one LVT licence is the number. So if you have a dealership and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 as your number, and you've got 5, 6, 7, 8, you actually have 2 LVT licenses technically. So if you fall into that boat and you are having issues with it, please contact the team. And there is a slide coming up at the end that has the phone numbers and how to contact us, because we might be able to discuss how to make it work. Examining mechanics can test and examine vehicles at any of the locations assigned to that LVT license. So in that example, if you've got a LVT license that has 10 sites, an examining mechanic that's assigned to that license can be authorised to test at all 10 sites. So you can move them around as needed, depending on how you want to manage your workforce. There is some administrative stuff that has to be done before that happens. You can't just, on the day go send you off there, because obviously they'll need access to the e-roadworthy system for every site. So heads up for people who are administrating those licenses. If you've got 10 sites and you want to have your examining mechanics able to test at all of them, just make sure that they are on as a user for all sites under that LVT license, and then you can administer your workforce as needed. Take a breath, because I apologise, I do talk very fast. So
yeah, beautifully, Jody. It's all good.
Bear with. Oh, and I double clicked by accident. So e-certificates. E-certificates is another area where we find a lot of confusion about how it works. So obviously LVT partners need to purchase e-certificates in order to be able to issue roadworthies using the online roadworthy system. These are ordered via the online bookshop. So you don't use your partner portal to order them, you do it via the online bookshop. Dealer partners are probably way more familiar with the, with the online bookshop, because you order a lot of your stationery and things through there as well. It's really important to understand that we have to allocate the certificates. It's not an automatic process. So any e-certificates ordered before 4 p.m, say 4 p.m. today, will be available tomorrow, the next business day. If you order them after 4 p.m, they'll be available in your portal account after 2 business days. And if you order over the weekend, we load them on the following Tuesday. So it's really good to understand those timeframes. We get a lot of calls from LVT saying, I've got no e-certificates, I bought them an hour ago, they're not in there. This is because we do allocate them manually. It's not an automated process. So if you can see you're running short, order them. Keep the stock up to date. There is an alert at the top of the partner portal when you go into your roadworthy dashboard that does tell you how many you have. So I recommend, administrators of partner portal accounts, just keep an eye on that, just to make sure they've got them allocated. One thing I just want to call out, that running out of an e-roadworthy certificate or an e-certificate, it's not a reason to issue a paper certificate. So very clear up front, just because you have no e-certificates available doesn't mean you revert to paper. It is your responsibility to ensure you always have sufficient amount of roadworthy certificate serial numbers. Next point is adding employees. So this one's another one where we often come across issues in this space. So all requests to add additional employees to the LVT license must come from the license holder or the director or the nominated representative. So we often find, and it does present more in the dealer space, obviously, because you're such big organizations, that we get requests from service managers, aftermarket managers. These people aren't authorized on the license, and we cannot accept requests to add employees from them. So what we really would like is just anybody who needs to add them, please make sure it's coming from the person who's authorized on the license as the director or the actual nominated representative. And they must include all the requirements or they will be rejected. So we have a very strict list of requirements. It's itemized on the form. If it doesn't have them, we won't be assessing it. We will push back. And if it's from the wrong person, you'll also receive an email back. So just, call to action here to say, please just make sure signed by the right person, submitted with the right paperwork. That's the speediest process to get your employees on quickly and easily. Right, I'll keep moving. Supervision of staff. This is something that's popped up quite regularly in the LVT space, particularly in the larger organisations, is around supervision of staff. So under Regulation 249 of the Road Safety Regs, the licence holder is required to supervise the work of an examining mechanic. Now, supervision isn't defined, but obviously you don't have to follow them around with a pen and paper and make sure they're doing everything. But ultimately, the LVT licence holder or director is responsible for the actions of all examining mechanics assigned to their licence. And I think it's just, I wanted to highlight this point, especially in this forum, because with these bigger organisations, obviously you've got a lot of people doing a lot of different things. But if something were to go wrong, we will come to the person responsible to say, what happened? Tell us what happened. So I just wanted to really call out that it is the responsibility of the licence holder or director to make sure they're supervising their examining mechanics. They know what they're doing, they're across what's happening. And if we were to ask questions, they're able to actually, you know, answer those questions. So there's my big stick for the session. Next topic that I thought would be handy to speak about is the online e-roadworthy system and password sharing, which is everyone's favourite topic. So all roadway certificates must be issued using the online e-roadworthy system. So the current LVT licence conditions that were released in November 2023 specifically mandate the use of e-roadworthy only. Paper certificates can only be issued with authorisation from the department. So if you had an issue where you were unable to log in, or the system was down, or there was some sort of problem, we can grant permission to issue a paper certificate, but they can't just be issued because you couldn't be bothered, or if it's an easier process, or you didn't want to upload the photos. It's not an excuse. The online e-roadworthy system can only be accessed by authorised users who have been issued with a unique username and password. This one is really, really important. We provide access to all users for our partner portal. It can only be used by that person for the purposes that they're authorised for. So if I have my own partner portal account and Johnny next to me doesn't have one, he's not authorised. He should not be accessing that account. He should not be doing anything in there. Usernames and passwords must not be shared with anyone. I can't stress the importance of that enough. Every time a person logs into their partner portal account, they do accept the terms and conditions to state that they will not allow anyone to access this who's not authorised, and they will not share their username and password. Password sharing is considered a very serious matter, and all suspected cases will be dealt with via the sanction and show cause process. So if we get alerted to someone sharing their password, or if our audit team identify it when they're doing one of their compliance activities, we will be sending a show cause questioning why it's happening, because it should not be happening.
Brodie, one of the common issues that we find amongst multi-franchise location dealerships is the movement of staff from location to location, or going to where the work is, which is just basic 101 efficiency and proper use of staff. How do we address that issue?
Do you mean from a system access perspective?
Yeah.
Yep. So if they're all set up correctly and they've got all the locations assigned to their partner portal, when they log in, they use the same login. They should be able to select where they are for the day and issue at that location.
So that is possible. Can we just send something out to the via the dealer certification scheme or yourself? Because and again, I've got like great people on the call, like Frank Rockel and a few others who aren't franchise dealers. But what we need to do is make sure that the dealers with multi-location really understand this.
Yep, I'm just
because I've seen a few show causes over the journey that we've advised members, whether we're meant to or not. That's another issue, but. To guide members through on how they might reply back. But if we can take away the issue or give the clear guidance, it goes some way to solving the issue as far as the deal is concerned and as far as you guys are concerned as well.
Yeah, definitely. I can work with the team to put together a little instructional, maybe with some pictures, because I think pictures are always helpful, to show partner portal users how to
Yep.
change between sites. And we can send that out if we can send it to LVTs and to dealers potentially, might cover the whole basis.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank
definitely.
you. Cheers.
No problem. All right.
And just a shout out to the mighty Frank Grockle. G'day, mate. You're looking at an absolute treat there.
So probably the most important topic, and I think everybody's here to hear about this, is our sanction and show cause process. So sanction process is regulated by the Road Safety Act 1986 and the Road Safety Vehicle Regulations 2021. We have the power, so the department has the power to suspend or cancel an LVT if the department is of the opinion that they've ceased to be a fit and proper person. So we have fit and proper person requirements. The premises is no longer suitable. We have premise requirements. None of the person's employees are qualified to carry out the examinations, or any provision of the regulations which applies in respect to the authorised person and the testing of vehicles has not been complied with. So they're the powers that we have in order to suspend or cancel. I wanted to call this out really quite specifically because thinking back to what I spoke about earlier, supervision of employee, that's a regulatory provision. So obviously that last one, any provision of the regulations which applies, means that if, there's not adequate supervision of employees, it is a reason to suspend or cancel an LVT license. Cool. The department will also issue formal warnings. Now, they don't have any legal effect, but we do take them into consideration if we're proposing to suspend or cancel at any point in the future. So we use our formal warnings when we've had a discussion, we understand the LVT has, proven that they can comply with the requirements that they agree to. So we'll say, we'll issue with a formal warning. We won't take this through the full sanction process, but we do keep them on file. We do reference them. And the next show cause will say that a formal warning was issued and what it was in relation to, and it does get taken into account.
Jody, do you have any idea the amount of dealers, LMCTs that have been issued with these type of notices? You got a number or an approximate?
I don't have a number that breaks down, not in my presentation here, exactly for just dealer representatives. I've gone the entire LVT scheme, obviously.
Okay.
But this gives you some numbers, and surely we can, deduce from there. So the department in 2023, we issued approximately 80 show causes across our scheme. All show causes are reviewed by a panel and a determination is made. So it goes through a panel of experts, both across technical experts, regulatory experts, program experts. In 2023, we can see here that we cancelled or prohibited 12, we issued 27 suspensions, 33 warnings, and 8 were actually no further action. So based on the response we received, we actually decided, you know what, there's nothing further here. Thank you, done deal.
Yeah.
So determinations are based on the evidence in the show cause, the history of the LVT, and the response, or lack thereof, to the show cause notice. And I just want to really highlight, one sec, I'm on a tangent. I just really want to highlight the importance of responding to a show cause. So obviously, if you receive it in the mail, we really, really want we want a response. That's the whole purpose of sending it. If we didn't want a response, we may contact you and issue a formal warning, but we actually want you to give us a response. So not responding is not the best look. And you're giving yourself no favors. You're not giving us any reason to be able to put any justification as to what's happened. So please respond if you get one. Sorry, Mick?
No, I was just going to say, so what's the prime generator of a show cause? Is it a consumer complaint? Is it just something that throws out an exception to report? Is it picked up at the point of audit?
Lots of different options. So
Yeah.
It could be audit compliance activity conducted by the department, may identify something. It could be a consumer complaint. It could also be a tip-off from somebody else letting us know that something's happened. It could also just be our observations. So remember, we obviously have the e-certificate portal and we can see what's happening in there. So we might start to observe a pattern or a trend that's happening, and we might then go, this is not good, it doesn't comply. We want to understand why it's happening. So there's a lot of different reasons that sort of come into the show cause and sanction process.
Thank you.
But it's a very rigid, structured process. but I just can't stress the importance of actually responding.
Keep going. I'm finished.
Awesome. So I feel like I'm reading, reading people's minds in the chat. So mandatory image requirements. So the LVT license conditions contain mandatory images that must be taken for all roadworthy inspections. The mandatory photos do change depending on the vehicle category, because obviously, not all vehicles have the same components, so they are a little bit different. And I've just put two little pretty pictures to show you where they are. I noticed in the chat that it says, can we make all mandatory? Any image that's listed, and I'm pointing, but you guys can't see me pointing, how crazy is that? Any image that's listed in the license conditions, which are, I've just taken 2 screenshots here, they are all mandatory. So every single one that's listed in the LVT license conditions is mandatory. The eCert system cannot have them all as mandatory because of the different types of vehicles. So for example, you may have a vehicle that doesn't have tint. We can't make the tint photo mandatory because what are you going to upload? So what the best way to tackle this is that staff should be aware, or examining mechanics should be aware, that every single thing that is listed in these license conditions is mandatory. The ones that are in the eCert system as mandatory are the minimum requirement, but everything should be in there that's in the license conditions. I'm hoping that makes sense. But always happy to speak more about it. We did develop a poster that talked about and had examples of minimum photo requirements and just sort of the photos that we'd be expecting to see. Those were distributed in the LVT newsletter and are available via the partner portal. We are currently updating some of our branding on them, but I would recommend that all LVTs at least get them printed and pop them around the workshop for examining mechanics to have a look at. It gives them a good understanding of what's required, what we're expecting to see, things like that. Right, next one, LVT newsletters. So LVT newsletters are released at regular intervals throughout the year. They contain both valuable technical and administrative advice to participants of the LVT scheme. And all newsletters can be accessed via the partner portal. So I've just put a little screenshot up on the side here. So you can see this little tab down here, LVT inspection standards, newsletters and bulletins. If you were to click into that, and I should have put a link, but I didn't, apologies, you will actually get links to all of the LVT newsletters. You will get links to inspection standards, so VSI 26, VSI 8, which are also available on the websites. You'll also get the photo posters and any other things that we think are really relevant. This is an amazing resource, especially for your examining mechanics. If they wanted to jump in and read something or have a look at something, I really do encourage everybody to have a look in there, have a read of it, and encourage their staff to also do that. I just want to preface that we are currently going through a branding update at the moment. So we were going to provide some links to websites and things like that, but our links may change. All of our partners will receive communications from us that do have information in relation to those changes in the coming days. So I haven't put any links in any of this information, unfortunately, for that reason. So lucky last of my formal slides, where to get help. So we have the LVT support team. So you can email us at roadworthy@transport.vic.gov.au, or you can call the VSPS technical support line on 1300 309 571. So if you've got an urgent issue and you need to speak to someone straight away, there is always a member of my team, multiple members of my team available on that support line to take calls and to speak to partners, immediately. If your issue is more of a clarification question, or if you've just got something you want to raise that isn't urgent, by all means, shoot us an email. We will respond to it. So Alison, I know you popped your hand up. Can you pop it in the chat and we'll be able to address it for you. All right, so moving into questions. Now, Mick did send some questions through, which I have tried to capture. Yeah. So these were some of the questions that came through. Now I've tried to cover off most of them in my formal talk, but we'll go through these ones and then any others that pop up in the chat, or any that you've got, Mick. So we quite often have to do a roadworthy for new cars that have been registered but not delivered. Is there some way around this? So I'm assuming this is in relation to potentially like cyber vehicles or demo vehicles.
Yeah.
So a vehicle is only exempt from the requirement to get a roadworthy when it's registered for the very first time. That's very clear. A roadworthy certificate is required for a used vehicle each time the registered operator has changed or is changed. So there is no way around it. Brand spanking new vehicles, first time registered, no roadworthy. Every other change of registered operator after that, it's deemed a used vehicle and it will require a roadworthy.
Yeah, I just want to just touch on that point if I can, because there'll be a lot of guys on this call feeling this pain at the moment with stock levels rising, and they are actually through the roof right now. And this is not even as a result of the new vehicle efficiency standards. We're expecting even more vehicles to be dumped by the OEMs on dealers, and that's going to have downward pressure on floor plans, so on and so forth. So I think you'll see a heightened level of lobbying from not just from the new car divisions and used car divisions of VACC, but even other dealership groups and other organisations with regards to very low kilometre registered vehicles, ones that have obviously not been on the road. So there's a deal that's been cancelled, or which is really prevalent at the moment. A lot of deals being cancelled, the car's registered, and all of a sudden the deal is, because you can't reverse a registration in the VIC road system. So the car is a used car instantaneously, and there's a loss for the dealer. Understanding that, an issue can occur in a car, whether it's got 1K on it or 100,000 Ks. Reality is, if a car's been at a dealership and it's been registered to be delivered to a customer, it's new, despite what the definitions say. So that's a real concern at the moment, I would say, for some dealers going forward. A lot of these guys will be they're not staring at concrete anymore, they're staring at, very heavily parked up yards, and they've also got yards external. Some dealers have got yards up to 100 kilometres away where they've got to store stock because it's that excessive at the moment. So there's some real need for dealers and for industry to come up with some real tight efficiency programs that will save them some money, particularly when you're talking hundreds of vehicles at a time. But that's just more of a comment than anything else.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And look, I completely respect that. This is bigger than a discussion we can have today, obviously, and we can take it on notice. Mike probably sits more in your space. Mike Chan, take it on notice and discuss it further. My only suggestion would be, it sounds crazy, but dealers wait till the 11th hour to register a vehicle just in case, which I know then clogs up all of the administrative work associated with it. But I think it's definitely something that we can take on notice. But the decision does sit well outside of our remit.
Thanks, Jody.
No problems. So next one was, is there any change to VSI 26 for electric, hydrogen, or other powered source vehicles? So the department is currently reviewing VSI 26, specifically in relation to the standards for electric, hydrogen, and other power source vehicles. But it's important to remember that the current version of VSI 26 does have broad requirements for electric and hybrid vehicles. So whilst we might be conducting a review at the moment, there is broad requirements already in there that must be followed. So I would recommend just have a look there toward the end, if I remember correctly. Any changes, any updates will be communicated to our entire LVT partner network. So,
yeah, Jody, can you refer that back to Frank Crockle and Johnny Curry if the opportunity arises?
Oh, of course, definitely. Yep, we will touch base with the relevant people.
Thank you.
Next question we had was, we are moving location, acquiring or opening new dealership. What do we do to make it happen quickly? So the most important thing is to contact us to discuss, and ideally before any decisions have been made. So if you think it's going to happen, give us a call and let's have the discussion. So if we're aware of what's coming, we can work with you to ensure the process is smooth and efficient. So for example, we did have a large dealership acquire another large dealership recently, and we had to move everything across. We managed it, we assigned it to one person and managed it offline, so that way we could ensure that it was a smooth process and that the LVT license was issued the moment the deal took place and they were able to continue to do their operations as needed. So I just stress the importance. You know, we're all a lovely bunch of people. Give us a call, shoot us an email, have that conversation. Okay. We're open to working with you guys. You are our partners, but we can't help you if we don't know about it. And we can't help you if it's too far down the track where we just physically can't help. So getting to us earlier, talking to us earlier is probably the most important thing there.
And generally speaking, you know, my team and Jody's team do talk to each other. So if there are major acquisition or major changes in dealership, we do sort of give each another heads up, particularly if they hold both license, LVT and, you know, the dealer certification agreement.
Yeah.
So that we can prepare ahead and get those systems and, you know, partner portal functions ready.
And that's a really great point to make, Mike. We all sit on the one floor. We all work as a very, very close-knit team. We all talk. So we know when things are happening in each other's space, and we do keep each other aware. And I want to emphasize that from both the good and the bad. So, you know, acquiring another dealership, that's the good. We'll work with you. But then if something's happening that isn't, you know, necessarily good, we will find out about it as well, because we do talk. So just wanted to just wanted to put that up front so everybody's aware. Next one. Bear with me. There we go. When can dealers start to register cars from members of the public? This one I hear come up quite often. So this is only my remit. I'm going to talk to it. Mike, please jump in if you need to. So it's really dependent on the introduction of the Nevdis web integration service. So that's coming from Nevdis, not from us. There's obviously dependencies on approvals and system readiness and things like that. Mike, if you want to say anything.
Correct. So just to qualify, there are new cars you can already do it online, but used cars you can't at this point. We've sort of addressed this in the last webinar as well, the 2 webinars. So for used cars, the current technology limitations is that we still don't have a API connection with Nevdis at this point. They're developing that into, you know, their services, and it's looking likely that it'll be released in the 3rd or 4th quarter next year. And then the second step to that, once they've released that, is really for big roads to build the portal link, partner portal link through that channel, and try and get that up and running for used cars.
Yeah, that would save well, first of all, there's an opportunity for all of industry there, but the ability to register used cars and to also do it manually, which is not the remit of this group, but is a massive reform measure wanted by LMCTs.
Yep. So I'm sure Mike will keep you informed on how that progresses. Next question that we had that was sent in offline was, when you get a consumer complaint, what do you do? So this one really depends on the nature of the complaint. So remember, you know, some people will complain just for the sake of complaining. We need to be able to substantiate the issue. So we always encourage the consumer to approach the LVT that issued the roadworthy in the first instance in an attempt to resolve the issue. So we always make that first step. We have no power to require an LVT to make good a vehicle. I just want to make that really clear up front. We actually don't have any power there whatsoever. So our powers lie only with the licensing of the LVT and our sanction and show cause process. When we're investigating a complaint, we will assess the concerns raised and we'll make a call as to the appropriate action that needs to be taken. So once we've looked at everything in front of us, we will then, you know, it may be the issue of a formal warning, or we may proceed into the sanction or show cause process. So unfortunately, I can't give you any clear, definite process, because it really does depend on what's in the nature of the complaint, what's happened. A tip though, we do use the eCert database to be able to justify a lot of the stuff. So one thing that we stress, and we've stressed on multiple occasions to the LVT partners, is the eCert database and the upload of photos is your proof that you have conducted the inspection as required. So clear photos, concise photos, all the mandatory photos means that we're able to look at a consumer complaint, look at the e-roadworthy and go, we actually can't substantiate what's being said here because our photos that we've had submitted to us show a different story. So it's really, really important that those photos are, backing you up and backing up your examining mechanics as to the inspection that they've completed and the thoroughness of that inspection as well. And that's all I had question-wise.
Beautiful. Jody, there is also some thought that comes from the VADA Parts and Service Group Managers, which is a subcommittee of the Victoria Automobile Dealers Association. And we've got quite a few of their attendees on this call today. Richard Rayner is the chair of that group. Welcome, Richard. And there's other members on Laurie Samet and Stuart Jenkins from Hopper Motor Group, Laurie Samet from Western, and Richard from Tony White, and a few Ciali from Gasback and a few others. So welcome. But there's also just a bit of concern that the impact on a franchise dealer, if they are booted off or they're suspended from a show cause as a result of a show cause, the impact is really dire for them from the point of view that the issuing of the roadworthy certificate for all intents and purposes is not their main reason for being or their main source of business. It's the retailing and delivering of a motor vehicle. And that has a huge flow-on effect to that. We did one recently where, and you'll know which one it was, and I think we calculated that the loss was going to be in the vicinity of $408,000 for the period of probable suspension, which is a massive punitive measure, considering it was for an issue. I think it was to do with an unauthorized sharing of a password. So again, I'm just wondering if you got any comments on that, and if there's any view to maybe instead of, for some, and this is just conversational, but instead of a punitive measure of suspending them off a scheme that they're so reliant on to move the vehicles, to change it to a financial sanction, if to have an either or.
So and this is, we've discussed this multiple times, and it's why I did cover it in my slide pack. So we are governed by the Road Safety Act and the vehicle regs, and they only provide us the powers to suspend or cancel. So I don't have, we don't have the ability to issue financial penalties or anything like that. The LVT scheme is one entire scheme. Every participant on it needs to be treated the same, treated fairly. One thing that I'd probably really stress to our dealer participants is that given the nature of what you're set to lose if you were to be suspended or cancelled, I feel like you should be treating it more preciously, number one. I know that sounds really crazy, but I would definitely be holding my dealer partners to a higher regard, given that they are set to lose so much more. The status of excellence in issuing of roadworthies should be coming from the dealer partners, not being disparaging to the lower workshops, but they do have a lot more to lose, as you've said, if they were to lose their license. So I think that all of our dealers should be lifting, rather than panicking about losing it and preferring a financial penalty, lifting up the quality of what they're doing and really being across what's required of them and what their obligations are, to ensure that they don't put themselves in that position where they could actually be suspended or cancelled.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of, I agree with what you're saying there. So we'll continue to work through the VADA Parts and Service Group guys with regards to encouraging the lifting, the maintaining of standards, because even the numbers you've gave for show causes and suspensions and that, when you consider the whole size of the LVT networking dealers and the aftermarket guys, is really quite admirable. I'd probably suggest, and really quite good. I mean, you'd ideally like to, in the perfect world, you'd have none, but the amount of transactions that we're talking about and transfers, 80,000 transfers a month in Victoria, of which many of them would have a roadworthy certificate attached to them, and that's that's 1 million a year. So the hit rate's pretty low. So, but again, we'll continue to do that with a view to lobbying Minister Horn and a few others with regards to introducing a financial sanction where applicable, if it can be where applicable.
Yep. Mike, there's a question in the chat in relation to ZLEV, which is probably sits in your space more, if you want to address that one now.
Yeah, that's right. So it's not related, but I've been asked if you get information on ZLEV stamp duty workaround. Yeah, definitely. We've offered that up in the second webinar. Yeah, quite happy for you, Sachi, to get in contact with myself, and I'll put you onto that new process. So in other words, the current partner portal has a limitations, as in it's not able to calculate the correct motor vehicle duty amount due to a change previously, and we weren't able to make an update to the current system. So we've had to sort of come up with a workaround to put these vehicles online and come up with the manual process to process motor vehicle duty afterwards. So yeah, a number of dealers have reached out in the past, and we've tried to help out, and happy to help out any other dealers that's in the same situation. I'll put my details on the chat shortly. So yeah, come in, contact me, and I'm quite happy to put you guys on.
Okay, well, that wraps up. It's fun. The clock's just gone 1:15, so we're right to time. Thank you, Jody and Michael. But Jody, thank you. Really impressive, and thank you for you not pulling any punches there. For the dealer network, I suppose we're just going to have to make sure that we've all got our processes in place. And Darren Buller put a really good comment in there. Maybe have some trial runs to make sure that if you are targeted or picked for an audit or a show cause, that you've got processes in place that can assist you defend your position or not have any anxiety if Jody or team was to rock up to your location, even if they may do it by desktop analysis. I'm not sure. But look, thank you, everybody. Thanks everyone for attending, and particularly thank you to the VACC Chairman Frank Rockall and Richard Rayner. It's great to see you online. And please, for the members, reach out to me with any queries, or if you've got a show cause or concern, we'll help give you some guidance on the way through. But thanks again to Vic Roads, Department of Transport and Planning.
I was going to say,
it's not Vic Roads anymore, guys. It's Department of Transport and Planning, DDP, not Department of Transport, DDP. So we've got to get used to that internally too. I'm sure you guys are still struggling a bit with it as well. So thank you so much.